Hello everyone. I'm back from a few months of recovery from a skiing accident I had last year. Anyhow, I'm hopefully getting back into making videos of nice helicopters and jets and whatever RC related stuff. But for today, I have a very interesting model I'd like to take a look at. It's the Silent Scout. This is a RC helicopter that's being marketed by Carmanon on Amazon. And this is an OH-58 helicopter, which some of you may know is the military version of the Bell 206. Here's a quick opening. It's called the Silent Scout. Comes with a spare blades, spare rotor blade, a screwdriver, charging cable, 2 LiPo batteries, comes with a 6-channel transmitter, and I'll tell you a little bit more about this in a few minutes. And it has a nameplate as well, where you can put, when you're resting your model, this would go next to it like this. Pretty cool. And a beautiful scale model of the OH-58. Okay, so give you a little bit more detail about this helicopter. As many of you who are in this hobby notice, this is a helicopter that's very similar to the Yuzhang F-08 helicopter. In fact, it's probably the F-08, manufactured by Yuzhang and marketed by Carmanon. But of course, Carmanon is marketing this, and they've done a fantastic job with the scale replica here. Their primary strategy is to market military aircraft that are relevant, historically relevant. So here's the OH-58, which many of you may know was very active in Vietnam. This is a Bell helicopter, and it was in service in the US Army and other armies around the world. It was manufactured from 1966 to 1989, and it was first introduced into the US Army in 1969. I think they're retired in 2020. They retired it from the US Army, but I'm not sure. This is a very famous and iconic model helicopter. The Jet Ranger is also based on this aircraft. So it's a beautiful rendition. Specifically here, Carmanon is including 2 batteries, as I showed you, lithium polymer batteries. I'll tell you a little bit more later. 1200 milliamp hour. The helicopter it has a collective pitch control with a motor brushless motor as tail control, as well as a brushless main motor. It has LEDs here, and in the bottom, and a front LED. Beautiful model. We'll get into more details later in this video. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this? Yeah, so this helicopter has a few modes. One is a manual mode, where you press this down and the helicopter is in manual mode. That means that the optical flow is not in control. The other mode is optical control mode, which it would basically see the ground and adjust its elevation accordingly. It could basically stay still. Very easy to fly this helicopter. It has a high and low mode, High mode is more aggressive, but it's really not that bad. It's very stable and beginner friendly. And then there's a low rate, high rate and low rates. The helicopter has auto land. It lands on its own when you press this down. It has an on-off button here, so you can cut the power off and it won't start. But you got to be careful if it's flying and you press this down here, it's going to drop out of the sky. I'll tell you more about the radio in a few minutes, but this is a mode 2 transmitter, so that means this is throttle and this is aileron and pitch, meaning elevator. Let's see what else. So yeah, it's a 1/27 scale helicopter. Let me put this next to it here. I'll be reviewing the manual, looking at the helicopter in a little bit more detail. We'll fly it, and then once we're done flying it and checking it out, we'll open the body and take a look inside and see what it's made of. Okay, looking at the manual, it's a pretty detailed manual. It's got table of contents. Let's just go through. Talks about the basics here. Okay, this table is interesting. Okay, the length tells you the length, tail rotor, main rotor diameter, tail rotor, and then here we have the time, flight time. It flies between 10 to 12 minutes. It's got the specs on the motors for the tail and for the main. They're both brushless motors, which is fantastic. You don't have any gears to worry about, because the older helicopters used to have a gear down here that turned, and basically that's how the motor rotated the main rotor. But now it's a direct drive brushless unit, which is less maintenance, less damage to the helicopter in case of a crash, and overall simpler. Okay, so the battery, I said they have a battery charger here. This will basically plug into your typical, telephone or mobile phone 2 amp 5 volt charger. This will plug into it. Here it's shown here how it works. Okay, and then the battery has a port here where you can connect a camera if you want, and then the camera would connect in here to record. And here it shows this signals. Now this is a smart battery pack. It has a chip in there, I think, that controls the battery. It shuts off the helicopter at low battery levels. Here, if I press this and hold it, it's fully charged. It says, 4 lights on, it's fully charged. And if it's 3 lights on, 75% charged, and so on and so forth. And if it's low battery, the helicopter is going to start landing on its own. It's not going to let you fly. So let's move on to the next. Here we're going to talk about the radio. It's a fairly decent radio. Turn it on. You have to supply your own. You have to supply your own batteries for the AA batteries, 4 of them. But let's talk about it. This switch here turns locks the motor, so if it's down, it's not going to start. And when you want to start it, you have to flip it off. In order to, well, let's talk about the controls. This is your throttle, okay, and take off, right? If you go up, it goes up. This brings it down. This is the pitch, basically. Then this is the roll. I'm sorry. This is not the roll. This is the yaw. Okay, the tail, right, left. And then we have on the helicopter we have your other controls here, which is forward, pitch backwards, and then roll right, roll left. These are your cyclics. All right, so more. Let's see what else this says about this radio. So that was the unlock button. The power switch is here, obviously. Press that and it turns on and off. And then we have the high-low rates are here. High would make it a little bit more aggressive, and low would make it less aggressive. But overall, this helicopter is very decent. I've flown the F-08, and we're going to fly this one as well. It's a very nice, docile, beginner-friendly helicopter. So let's go on a little bit. Okay, don't want to get too much into detail until we fly it, and it's better when you see it when you fly it. But this helicopter has an optical flow sensor, and that's this eye down here, basically down here. Basically, it's visualizing the ground optical flow, and it controls its elevation and based on what it's seeing. It doesn't work very well over water. So if there's reflective surfaces such as glass or water, it's not going to work well. Okay, what else? Okay, and we also have auto land. So the helicopter will land automatically if you, I think it's, which one is it? Screw pitch, one button landing. It's this button here. Okay, so it's this guy here. This is the landing. You push it down, it should land. Okay. I know this also does a flip, but I have never tried it on my other helicopters. But it's got a mode where it would, as it's hovering, it's going to rotate and fly upside down, reverse its pitch, angles and everything. Like I said, on a scale helicopter, I haven't tried that. I might do it, but let's wait and see. Let's fly her and see how she flies, and then we might do that. Okay, what else? Okay, control of binding. This is already bound to the radio. I'm not going to go through it, but the manual clearly explains how the binding procedure takes place. And then this is an interesting section. It talks about all the status lights. The status lights of this light, okay, when the helicopter is turned on. Okay, rapid yellow means it's self-checking and it should remain stationary. So basically, the gyro is calibrating itself as it's before flight, so you shouldn't touch it when it's flashing yellow. It turns into solid green if we have the optical flow on. Okay. Okay, and it says it's limited to flying to 8 meters. Okay, when the optical flow is on. If the light is slowly flashing green, that means that there's obstruction in the optical flow. So, or that the helicopter is too high. So we should lower the helicopter. And then slow red flashing means that you're in low in battery. That's the most important one to me, is if I see my helicopters flashing red, I'll come back and land, because I don't want it to land on its own somewhere like in the bush or somewhere that's not going to be safe for the landing. And if it's rapidly flashing red, you're in trouble. It's going to land imminently. So you don't want to get to the rapid flashing. Okay, I hope this is not boring. It's just interesting to see how things, just explaining the manual here. Okay, the gyro calibration is also explained in here, which is, again, step-by-step process. And we'll go through how the motor starts and stops when we fly her. But when you start it, you have to, just like all the other drone-type helicopters, these two will go in different opposite directions, and the helicopter will start up. All right, what else? We talked about the different controls. We'll go ahead and do it again. This is the radio, so you have throttle up, helicopter will lift, throttle down will come down, turn it to the right. You're going to yaw to the right, yaw to the left. And here is pitch up, pitch down. Basically pitch up. Here it's going to go forward, pitch back. And then again, you got the roll or the aileron left, aileron right. I think this explains all the switches. There's other, like I said, this mode is a flip mode. It flips the helicopter. I haven't tried it, but we might do that. And let's see, there are 3 servos on this helicopter, as mentioned before, and different settings are explained in here. We don't have to do this. This is done at the factory. Only if the helicopter isn't flying right, you may want to come and reset your pitch. I've done a video on that on the RC helicopters, but this one here is a Yuzhang, is a little different. And I'm sure you can find others who have done this, but I wanted to introduce this helicopter here because the scale looks are just amazing. And Carmanon has done a great job in marketing and making this happen. Okay, let's do a little close up here on the helicopter itself. As you can see, beautifully machined head assembly. This pitch, it's a collective pitch helicopter. So that means the servo swash plate goes up and down, as you can see, increases or decreases this, the pitch angle of the blades. As you can see here, it's increased pitch, if you can see it there. So that's how collective pitch helicopters work. If it wants to get more power into the wind, the pitch increases and gives it more lift. And when it wants to reduce, it decreases like that. That's decreased, increased. So it goes up and down like that. And the swash plate, basically, there's an elevator position. This becomes like a wing. It's a rotary flight. So I'm sure those who understand helicopters, they can explain better. But when the swash plate turns this, rolls to the forward, the helicopter will go this way. And when it's tilting to the right, it's going to rotate this way or this way. That's the roll or aileron. This is elevator or pitch. Elevator or pitch. Pitch forward, pitch backward. Elevator forward, elevator backward. And the other is yaw for the tail. The yaw is achieved with the brushless motor here. Sometimes these brushless motors are extremely loud and they whine. But on these recent helicopters, they don't do that. And it's pretty cool because they're very responsive these days. The older brushless motors, tail control was lagging. It wasn't as fast or quick. But I think they've come up with much better firmware and flight control modules that makes that possible. Okay, we explained the light here and all the functions. Green is when it's in optical flow. Red is in manual mode. And when it's flashing red, it's time to land. And if it's flashing quickly, it's going to land by itself imminently. So you want to try to get to just land it before when it's just flashing red. There are three other LEDs on this model. One is the front LED, which is really cool. And then it's got an LED in the bottom, a red flashing LED, and an LED on the tail here. I wished that it also had LEDs here. I can add that myself. There are kits out there where you can buy tiny LEDs and put nav lights. The right side would be green, and the left side would be red. So that's that. What else? The kit comes with 2 blades, or 1 set of spare blades, 1 set of rotor blades, 2 batteries, 1200 milliamp hour, 7.4 volt lithium polymer batteries. These have a smart chip in there that basically would shut off the helicopter at low battery conditions. As you can see, it's a 1200 milliamp hour 25C lithium polymer. It doesn't say it, but in the manual it says it's a lithium polymer. As always, you have to be careful. When you charge these batteries, stay around until it's charged. It doesn't take too long. Okay. The batteries basically fit like this. They go in the bottom, and you just press it forward, push these 2 buttons, and then push it down. It should click and go in place. You could see the brushless motor right here. That's the brushless motor inside. We're going to open her up after we fly her and check out the inside as well, so that everyone knows how to maintain this helicopter when needed. Lots of spare parts available for these helicopters. Again, this is based on a Yuzhang F-08, marketed as an OH-58 Kiowa by Carmanon. Beautiful rendition. Beautiful. It doesn't have anything that has to do with Yuzhang on here. Very scale. Here's the optical flow sensor. Anyhow. Okay, we're going to do our test flight. So what I did was I put the 1.5 volt batteries in here, 4 of them, AA sized. You have to supply those yourself. And on the helicopter, there's a few things I like to do before flying it for the first time. First of all, you have to check all the linkages to make sure they're not loose or broken, or they may have been damaged either in the factory or in transit. So you have to make sure you check these things. These are important things on helicopters. Make sure that your tail rotor bolts are on properly. Nothing is loose, nothing's coming out. On these ready-to-fly helicopters, it's not as critical, but it's still an important part of pre-flight testing and checking. That bolt here is called the Jesus bolt, right there. And that Jesus bolt better be tight, otherwise you know what will happen. This thing will just fly off. The blade grips need to be loose, but not too loose, and they need to be tight, but not too tight. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that when you hold the helicopter like this, it should stay. This one is a little bit too loose, but that's perfect, because if I do this, it drops, right? It should stay, and when you do a little shake down, it should drop. This is perfect. This guy is a little loose, but I don't think it's going to impact anything. I don't have my wrench here, but this is fine right now. The battery goes in here, so let's do that. Putting in the battery is pretty interesting. You have to make sure there are 2 buttons here where you have to squeeze in. So the connections are here, and they need to go in and connect there. So we're going to push this in and then squeeze these 2 buttons. Let me see. Squeeze these 2 buttons and then push it in until it clicks. Make sure it clicks. Make sure it's not going to come off. Okay. Next, you always turn on your transmitter first. okay? And then you turn on the helicopter. You put it down. It's right now finding its binding. Still binding. There you go. It's bound, green. And that's with optical flow. If I want to put it on manual, you see manual, turns red. Optical flow is green. We're gonna fly now. Okay, we're gonna take off now. We did our pre-flight checks. And I like to stand behind the helicopter for the first flight. So make sure it's not locked. It's the motor is ready to run. I'm going to put her on high rates. And to start, you press down both sides and the helicopter kicks in. And you press up. There she goes. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's go. We're on optical control mode, and it tells you not to go over glass. There's a bunch of warnings in the manual about what to fly over and what not to fly over. And glass and water are two areas where apparently the optical flow doesn't like. And it can, initially when you take off, throw you off. But let's just fly her here. It's snowing a little bit here, so it's pretty nice. This is on high rates and optical flow. And make sure it's high rates. Okay, that's high rates. Okay. High rates and optical flow. Let's do some reconnaissance flying. Ooh, yeah. Again, this OH-58 was a reconnaissance helicopter, meaning it went in first as a scout. I guess the Silent Scout is the name of this helicopter. It probably told where the targets are, and the other helicopters, like the Apaches and the gunships, went in for the attack. Beautiful model. Let's do an auto land, an optical flow, but I want to do it. Let's go in the on a flat area. Let's go and do an auto land here. And the auto landing feature is this button here. You just press it, and it lands on its own. Very nice. So let's go back to high rates, because every time you do that, and let's see if it can take off on its own. Push down and press up. There you go. So let's go on the manual mode now. This is on optical flow. I'm gonna go manual by pressing down. The light turns red. Right as lead, red. So let's just see. I'm gonna make sure it's in high rates. Double beep is high rates. Has more control and authority on high rates. I don't think it could use more control authority, in my opinion. It's designed for being a beginner helicopter, so maybe that's okay. But even though it's a beginner's helicopter, it's still fast, and the speed and momentum could create issues if you don't have enough authority on the controls. What I mean by that is, if you go fast, the momentum is going to keep taking it in the direction it was going, even though you're trying to stop. And that could be a problem for you. Like this is on manual mode and high rates. Flies nice. It's still stabilized even though if it's manual mode. It just doesn't have optical flow and it doesn't control its level. Beautiful. Let's do some nice. This is as much acrobatics you can get out of this guy. Bring it down a little. This is on beautiful livery. I love it. This is the sister of the F08, but I like the livery on this much better. Again, this is sold by Carmanon on Amazon, a relatively new company. I found their mission is to promote liveries that are relevant in history and have iconic value. I'm going to go back to optical flow. That means turn on the optical flow sensor, which turns green. And sometimes it's not the most stable thing. I'm not sure why, but maybe it's the ground. But it has to kind of stabilize itself and here and stay in the same location. I'm going to try to keep her in the same location, see if touch free. That's what the optical flow is supposed to do. It's supposed to keep it in the same location without and it does. It has to just find itself. So if I take my hand and put it under it, it should go up. See, it's going up. Try again. Ooh, it is cold here, so that might affect some of the performance, but beginning to snow. What a gorgeous helicopter. This is one of my favorite designs, actually, the Bell 206. Iconic helicopter. When I think helicopter, I either think Bell 206 or 214. So let's go back to manual. Do some fast rolls. As much acrobatics as you can with this guy. See, there's not enough tail authority on this. It doesn't spin fast. It just helps in the yaw. You can't do like here's as fast as it rotates. This is the fastest rotation. Full rotation. Very docile. And that was in manual mode, high rates. So if we go low rates, let's go low rates. Low rates, let's see how fast the rotation is. This is low rates. High rates. We're gonna fly this until the battery light comes on. good thing about this is you can actually see the condition of the battery. If you go up high, you see the lights under it, the green light, it's on 2. When it turns to 1, I think the battery will be ending and it should be time to land. Sounds awesome. Love the sound on this thing. One thing I want to mention is a lot of these tail-rotored helicopters are kind of loud when they whine on the turns, but this one isn't that bad. The tail is not loud at all. Tail motor, that is. You can hear it, but it's not that bad. And it takes, you know, on this one, it's pretty good. Fuller stable. Do some reconnaissance. Love that light. Gorgeous. I wish it had nav lights on the tails. The nav lights with oh, time to land. You see the red flashing light? Let's see how long it takes until it lands on its own, because that's critical. So if it wants to land automatically or imminently, you want to be in a place where it lands safely. So I would just land it as soon as this light starts beeping, okay? Otherwise it's going to automatically land somewhere. See, I'm just holding it like this, waiting for it to land on its own. The green light is 1 dot now. Soon it's gonna imminently land on its own. When the red light, there you go, it's landing on its own. I'm not doing anything. That's it, and it turns off. So you want to make sure you just land when this light starts beeping. I mean, it starts blinking and the transmitter starts beeping. This light has 1 green dot and everything's flashing. So we'll turn this off. Turn the beeping radio off. And that's it. Beautiful model. Beautiful.